from natural disasters to fighting for social justice. The world has been grappling with numerous stressors and pressures. And then COVID-19 hit, exacerbating the already overburdened mental health care system. The mental health of millions has deteriorated, with some groups at greater risk of developing more severe difficulties. But amidst this crisis, a new approach to mental health care is emerging. Step Care 2.0 is a client-centric and inclusive approach that is changing the way the system works. Join us as we explore this paradigm shift and its potential to transform mental health care.
What is Step Care 2.0 in your mind, and what is missing?
Step Care 2.0 for me is a way of understanding how to support people who are in need of, let's say, psychological support. Because each individual is so diverse and so unique, it needs to be seen in their context, but it also means acknowledging. And so when a clinician engages in work from that perspective, they see the person in front of them and not necessarily from a specific mode of acceptable psychological theory. It helps the clinician see, I need to see this person for who they are.
So it enables us to look at a broader context for mental health care and deliver it differently. Step Care allows me to look at anything that's available anywhere and that this person tells me about or I know about, we share and find a personalized approach for them that fits for them. And it's not up to my training or what I think is the best thing.
Absolutely.
It just gives me this broad way of looking at it that builds on their strengths and capacities. What I really appreciate is that it's more than one-to-one. It's community, it's community development, it's social justice. It's what we talked about getting from a therapist or a healer, you can get from your next door neighbor. You know,
Absolutely.
We can get it from an
Knitting group.
AA group, a
Yeah.
knitting group, a church group.
Yeah.
For people who like athletics, that's where they get their needs met, or someone who's great at acting or likes to look after animals. So all of this are healing pieces, and for the first time ever, people are starting to see mental health and a service delivery as more than just one-to-one therapy. And I think that that's absolutely critical.
It's a holistic approach that really thinks about primary behavioral care.
Step care really kind of breaks away from this traditional idea of like providing services that we have come to be taught as the only way or the sole way to provide services, but recognizing that like people don't necessarily need that level of engagement, and oftentimes they're not necessarily looking for that level of engagement.
Maybe they're not ready to be that committed to like these in-depth processes, but they can still benefit from just a variety of services and learning about themselves.
We used a lot of different ways to engage the client, and that was, very helpful. And I think it also made them feel that, okay, I have options. And also I have the ability to determine what I want and what makes sense for me as an individual.
You get to meet your person where they're at developmentally. You get to meet the person where they're at with their boundaries, and you get to have some really challenging conversations at first. Challenging in the fact that they might be looking at psychology, therapy, treatment in a one-dimensional lens.
I was given control over like where I wanted to go with my mental health. And usually I feel like it's more of a dictation, like here's what we offer, here's what you need to do. But with the counseling center, it was more so like, no, where are you? Like I had choices. Like who doesn't like choices?
There's also a piece that I think is self-directed. So, if I need higher intensity or more support, I can seek that out and I can say I need more. And at the same time, there's a level of flexibility that says, you know what, right now I don't need as much, so I can step back, but I know there's going to be a point in the future that if I need to tap into something more extensive, I can. So I think that flexibility is really important, especially in the way our students live their lives today.
So this is what Step Care 2.0 is trying to do, is say we need a broad perspective. We need many different voices and many different options. So when we look at a system of care, we're saying, okay, one-to-one therapy is one way of seeing mental health care.
There's so much around you. There's so many resources. It's exciting to see an abundance. And it's freeing to be inspired by something I hadn't thought of, because the answers are out there. They're not in here, in a way. They're out there. And to be looking around, oh, there's something that could work.
So then that translates, let's say, in that clinical context, not just with an individual client, but to systems that we can always look out. We can always be thinking that there's something more.
All of that is really important to our well-being. And what's really sad about how mental health is trained is that it's taken out of the context of an arts degree or a broader understanding of culture in the world around us, and it's been codified into something that's technical.
And diagnostic. And
Can you imagine this? You know, as you're speaking, I'm like, we expect everybody to fit in to this model. When you come to see somebody, they sit there, they may have 1 session, 2 sessions, 6 sessions, and that's it. And it's like, how can we have allowed that to happen?
It was just such a breath of fresh air to like come in and say, hey, I need to address this. And someone to say, sure, how would you like to do that? Here's what we offer. I think it was the first time that I experienced compassion and mental health work.
I value that so much about the step care process. We can never, I don't think we're going to get to a point where we're going to have licensed, qualified mental health clinicians to meet the needs
Of everybody.
How are we going to get out of it? What are we going to do? We have to be able to think outside the box and to recognize people within our community who have those skills and can do that. Oh my goodness, that can make such an impact.
And that's why I always come back to gold standard. As much as people think it's psychiatric care or the medical model, it's not. Gold standard is what fits and what works for the individual in the moment. And that's where we have to change the narrative. I think that's a big piece of our work. So people outside the system get it. They go, oh yeah, that makes sense. We've all been so indoctrinated in the system, it's harder for us to get it. And I know that there's some complexities, but we're not saying you don't have psychiatric care and you don't have psychiatric hospitals and you don't take care of people who have chronic or complex needs. What we're saying is even people with complex needs or chronic mental illness, they can too benefit from things in the community.
This is fascinating to be able to see different contexts and the abundance that's in the world around us.
And I'll say again that what the step care model does, and we could call it something else at some point, but it validates all of that.
To introduce transformative change while managing stakeholder conflicts, Step Care 2.0 uses diplomatic disruption, a process for finding solutions that meets everyone's expectations. Learn more in our next video.